I'm seeing everything very differently in my life lately, Josh, where we're all creators and we're creating things to share with the world. So the shit that you're sharing is coming through you from whatever, the universe, consciousness, right? And I'm just curious what that looks like for you. How do you tap into it? How do you trust it? How do you let it guide you? All that jazz.
Well, some of it is born out of a discomfort of being alone with myself.
Yeah.
So I escape into creation, and how can I create something else in the world to help people? How deep do we want, how deep do we want to look at things? I'm just, thinking and talking as we go, right? Because the truth is that I'm not very good at sitting still, and I'm not very good at just sitting still with myself. So one of the things that I do is think about something else that I could create. Is that just being creative? Or do I need to go and look for another book in the library and find out why I'm doing it, right? I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of all of them, right? And also it's born out of like the love, man. I love being in community with people, I love being of service to people. And one thing that I've learned, I did some IFS work recently, one-to-one stuff with a guy. One of the things that we learned is that I've always been of service. Even when I was when I was drinking and I was out in the bars, I was of service. I was always trying to make people laugh, right? I was always trying to brighten up people's days. I was always trying to. So like, again, there's this whole, we talk about people pleasing, and that's definitely an issue of mine and shows up in my life in certain ways, right? But being of service to people is slightly different to people pleasing, right? People pleasing is like, I'm desperate to get you to love me. Being of service to people is doing things for the love of being of service to people, right? And there's a subtle difference in those two things. And so it's like being aware of those two, because I think if we're not careful, the healing journey and the space that we find ourselves in just becomes another mechanism to which we create a line that we can't quite reach. And that means we're not good enough. So then we go people pleasing, and then every time we're nice to somebody, or we do something because we love making other people feel good, then we go, oh, well, that's people pleasing because I'm just obsessed with it. And it's like, nah, it's not all people pleasing, man. It's not all people pleasing. When it's not even sometimes when it is at the expense of myself, it's because I love it. I love doing that. And it's my creative outlet, it's my creative outlet as well. And I love it.
It's almost like the same spectrum, the end of it being, people pleasing from kind of like that survival state and trying to get your needs met and all of those kind of different things versus service. Same actions and behaviors sometimes, just on a completely different end of the spectrum. Because I think about that too a lot, where being in service to other people and helping other people and doing all of these other kind of things, it does sometimes trigger that people pleaser thing inside of me. And I have to battle that internal narrative back and forth where it's like, oh, wait, this is actually a healthy expression of it. Even like we were talking about it recently. I don't remember if it was on the podcast or not, but codependency, where it's like for a long time we were in the space of trying to heal codependency and trying to see all the different ways that we were codependent and how toxic codependency was and how important it was for us to differentiate between each other and all these kind of things. So we go too far, past the end where what would quote unquote be balanced and healthy to like pushing away from it so much to where it's like, well, no, like it's okay to like codependency is a healthy human behavior that we need in order to feel safe and secure. And that's totally okay. Like we talked a lot recently about like co-regulation and how important that is and how important it is to be able to allow, somebody else to help you regulate your nervous system in all the various ways that can look. And when we had that conversation, I'm like, I don't know, this sounds pretty codependent. We're in that codependent water again. But again, it's like thinking about it too much, stressing about it too much, and just learning that there's a balanced place in the space of all of these different things.
Yeah, and a lot of what we end up, what you end up looking at and exploring is hard to describe in words, because a lot of what we're talking about in life, and this might sound a bit sort of woo-woo, but we're talking about like energies. In a marriage, in a relationship, you want to depend on your partner, right? Of course you want to depend on your partner. You should be able to depend on them, right? When there's moments when you can't get through, when it feels like the day is too much, you should be able to depend on your partner if they're available to be there, right? So you should be able to be codependent in that way, right? That is slightly different to, I don't know who I am away from who you are, all right, now maybe we've got a little bit of a problem, right? Which is, if you're not happy, then I've got to make you happy because I don't know how to be happy if you're not happy, right? So that, like, look, I'm sure there's people that could really get down into the nitty gritty and describe it well in words, but in the end, words are just things that we put together in order to try and make sense of things. So sometimes they're not adequate, And the same happens when I'm talking about the way that toxic people can sort of abuse you. Yeah, you start trying to describe it, and you're like, someone go, "Oh, so you mean narcissistic?" And you're like, "Well, kind of, but it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be that word. It could be fucking another word." Do you know what I mean? You just think yourself into a hole if you're not careful. You know what I mean? You just got to think. Sometimes you have to go, "Do you know what? I feel all right. Do you feel all right? You feel all... We're good. We're all right. Let's just fucking enjoy that for a minute." And actually, that's what I've tried to do with Deeper You. Is I've tried to make it about joy and like, how do you come back to just enjoying life as well, not being stuck in the hole of healing, which can happen,
Yeah. I think that's definitely like, I could, probably like the last 5 years of our life, that's what it's been. Is not, I don't want to say it, like describe it as necessarily like a hole, but it definitely feels like we went too far down that end and just got so heavily involved in the act of trying to heal and change and evolve and get through all of our shit, strictly from a perspective of survival. Very much from like, we don't want to lose this relationship. We don't want to, independently as well, like both of us have struggled over the years with all sorts of different things, and trying to get to that spot where we feel secure enough to move forward that we don't have to necessarily think about what are we healing every single day. But it's a scary thing. It does, like the fact that it feels scary to set it down is a clear indication that we've been holding on to it too tight.
Mm.
Yeah. Definitely went through that. There was like all the space of like the way you describe it as a whole, and in the moments where you're feeling good, when you feel like, instead of saying like, "Are you good?" Okay, like we're good, we're feeling good. It was okay, what else can I find here? It was constantly digging, constantly, and never really allowing those moments of where you're like benefiting from all the healing and all the time you have put into yourself. It's like, no, there's got to be more. I got to take it another layer, instead of just letting the sun shine sometimes.
Yeah.
Not really has to be that. So really allowing the sun to shine has been something that it felt like I was cheating and giving up, and it was going to come back and grab me if I did that, as to where now I really like the sunshine.
We'll make it out and fall in love tonight.
Thanks for listening to The Steph and Craig Show. There's new episodes of The Steph and Craig Show every week. And if you're resonating with our podcast, please take a moment to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with somebody. And be sure to check out some of these clips as well. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you all next week. Expect the best, plan for the greatest.